Hi, this is Zak Mir with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Vox Markets for Thursday, the 9th of September. Starting off with Amigo, where there's the usual shenanigans in terms of the legal side of things, but we've got sort of a trio of technical aspects here. First was the break of that resistance from June through around the 9 pence level, and there was a nice run up. We've had a nice run up to 13. That's a more obscure resistance line there from March. End of day close above 13 pence, which we may get today. Could take the shares back up to 18 pence, which is basically resistance on the way down for the shares. So 9, 13 and 18, the levels in question for Amigo at the moment. Stock that I don't normally cover, but it's a bit of a thin day in terms of potential technical targets. Here we have altitude, and here the situation is that we've got this rising trend channel in place on the daily chart since the turn of the year. Floor of the channel around 30 pence. Nice rebound off the floor of the channel today and yesterday, and pushing higher now. So looking for the top of the range towards 60 pence maybe by the end of next month. We already broke that trend line there from back in April in the middle of last month. So we've done reasonably well since then, and also looks relatively simple setup. So above 30 pence, looking for 60 on altitude. Aura continues to impress, maybe near the end of the line in terms of the latest rally, but still, just looking at it, what a move that we've had to the upside here. Gapped up off support, bear trap gap reversal, which is one of our favorite setups. Unfortunately, I don't think I saw it at the time, but actually the trigger here was, in fact, the May resistance line break, which I think I did spot last month. And the current situation is that we've hit our first big target here, around 14 pence, which is a July 2020 resistance line. Obviously, this could be or should be the top of the range, but if we get a decent end of day close through 14, there is a best case scenario target maybe by the end of next month up to 23 pence, although, as to be said, that looks rather ambitious at the moment. Stop loss, I suppose, back below 12 pence, just in case 14 pence is indeed the top of the range. Stock making its debut on the Bulletin Board Heroes is Arachol Therapeutics. Here we've had, well, as I am a fan of gaps, two rather large gaps here. Also had one of those situations of that sort of opening range breakout. Difficult, obviously, with the lack of data that we've got here to work out exactly where the shares may go, especially with the gaps as well. That makes it much more volatile, but we could potentially be in a broadening triangle, so one where you draw a support line like that, and the resistance line, the upper parallel of that, could imply that we get a target as high as somewhere around the 270, 280 mark on the end of this particular rally. But obviously I understand this is probably not for this situation, not for everyone. The support here at the moment, the old high there at £2.47, it's above 247. Looking for 270, 280 maybe as a best case scenario, but again, could be liquid, could be painful on that situation. On to Sizzle, which came up with a decent update today. There was a sharp spike for the stock right up towards the old June resistance near 7p. Current situation is that if we can hold above that line of resistance there from July, that's around the, let's call it the 5 pence area, hold above 5 pence, then we could get a retest of the 8 pence level and the 200-day line, perhaps by the end of the month, giving the shares a bit of wiggle room in terms of the time frame. Stock which looks to be rehabilitating itself at the moment is Empyrean. Here we've got a situation where we bounced off the floor of the rising trend channel from last September. That was around the, let's call it the 5.5 pence level. And above that, looking for at least a retest of last month's resistance through the 6.3, well, 6.5 pence level, in fact, at the 6.5 pence level. After that, best case scenario target maybe over the next 1 to 2 months as high as 10 pence, but we need to clear that 6.5 pence on a weekly close basis. Otherwise, this may be a false dawn. Moving along, and stock, which is one of the news stories of the day, is Hardide. And here, a stock that I don't think I've looked at very much at all, but we've got two things to look at here. One is that resistance line break from back in September 2019, that level there around 35 pence, also breaking above the 200-day line at 34 pence. So basically above 35, looking for 55 at the top of that rising trend channel from the beginning of last year. Time frame on that maybe by the end of next month. Strange situation, a strange chart really, has been National World. Hardly any charting data, but the shares have actually kept on moving ahead. Hardly any setbacks at all, so sideways and then up has been a general pattern. Current consolidation around the 35 pence level, but looks like we've broken out now and heading hopefully towards 60 pence by the end of next month, which is the top of the rising May trend channel from last year, actually rather from this year in fact, so up to 60 pence maybe by the end of next month. And stop loss here probably back below 35 pence on an end of day close basis. Good to see Napster back, cool name, but it hasn't been quite such a cool price action for the stock, in fact rather cold price action. Here we've got this descent which has been there since the end of last year, but looking closely here, broken that trend line there from back in June quite clearly at 1.3 pence, and the longer we remain above that, the greater the chance of a move maybe towards 2 pence by the end of next month. Maybe a bit longer than that, but let's say by the end of next month, which would fill that gap there from back in June as well. So that seems to be a reasonable situation. On to Vela, which everybody was waiting for an exciting situation on this over the last sort of couple of weeks, actually for recent months in fact, but here we've got a situation where the shares already broke that line of resistance there from the beginning of the year at 008. Still looking for 0.17, which at the moment looks rather ambitious given the shares are down on the day, but perhaps by the end of next month that could be the destination for the stock once the slack is taken up, which I believe there is quite a lot of slack in there at the moment. So let's see if Vela can come up with the goods. It would be nice to see an end of day close through 0.12, which would be a new closing high for 2021, but maybe, well, let's see how we go for the rest of the afternoon. Finishing off with Caracal, which I switched to on the old e-signal charts, but I used to use before. This is the hourly chart here because we don't obviously have very much charting data to go on. The best way of fitting the price action here is that we're in a rising trend channel from the turn of the month. Floor of the channel around 1.2 pence, and while there's no end of day close, back below 1.2, looking for 1.6 perhaps by the end of the month. Only really back below the 50 period moving average there at 1.1 pence, really questioning the recovery argument. Already been good that the shares found new support at the old initial resistance around 1.1 pence, so quite encouraging. If you are cautious of the shares, probably you want to see an end of day close through 1.35 probably to establish confidence that we can get up to 1.6, but good trend so far for Caracal. That's it from me today. More updates tomorrow.